Scarlett Johansson exits the film Rub and Tug, and a discussion of strong female characters in film on episode 109 of the Cinema Psycho show. Let's hit that theme music.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Laine Woolscroft.
Oh no, Rub and Tug was supposed to be the name of our two-man off-Broadway show, Brian.
Aw, damn.
You
What
did
are we gonna
not
do now?
disappoint.
What, did someone take it?
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
What episode are we on?
We are on episode, what are we on now?
109.
109. Yeah, episode 109. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, the controversy surrounding, no longer, Scarlett Johansson playing a transgendered person in an upcoming film.
I think it's transgender person,
Is
Brian.
it a transgender person?
I think the ED, I think that's incorrect.
Okay, I'm wrong on that.
That's okay.
Let's all be very careful.
I mean, I think it's okay to kindly
Yes.
and politely call someone, out
you're
for
right.
if they do it wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
trying to be good over here,
that's
dude.
cool. That's cool. So we'll be talking about that controversy as well as something that I think, Laine, you've been salivating about, and that is the representation of women in film.
Woot! Ready?
broads and cinema.
Oh, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
So that's what this episode's going to be about, and especially we've got, I know John and I have our list of what we consider to be strong characters in film who are female, but Laine might disagree with every one of them.
I think we're gonna have an awesome discussion. I'm super excited, guys. Super
So,
excited.
John, do you want to give us some of the details on this controversy surrounding Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah. So there was an outcry for there's an upcoming movie called Rub and Tug, which is about a Pittsburgh, of all things, massage parlor owner and crime kingpin Dante Tex Gill, who was transgendered. I don't know if this person
Transgender.
transgender. Excuse me.
Yep,
Sorry.
like I said,
I got it wrong. I heard what you just
Yep.
said, and I still got it wrong.
Did you hear me though?
I don't listen when you talk.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
But it's based on a true story, and they cast Scarlett Johansson in the lead role for this, which because she is
Scarlett
not
Johansson.
Famous.
there was an uproar about her playing this character, and why
possibly-
didn't go to somebody of more representation for that.
Rightfully
And-
so, I would say. I mean, that's a huge contention in Hollywood right now where, we're starting to tell more trans stories, but we're not hiring trans people to tell them. And I think that that's a huge mistake.
Well, ScarJo said, "Hell no, I won't be in the show." And she's
Right?
out,
I love it. She exited the project. I think that's pretty awesome that she decided that, that it was better told by someone else. And now I hope they hire someone who's trans instead of all this. And then they just pick somebody else because Hollywood is stupid.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the CNN Entertainment article about this, and they made mention of Ryan Murphy's FX drama Pose, which featured the largest ever cast of transgender actors in a series with regular roles on television. And I guess a lot of people pointed to that and said, why can't you pull someone from that?
It's not like there aren't actors available,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, just to play devil's advocate here, thinking from Hollywood standpoint, we, and when I say we, I mean obviously this podcast directly, but also the viewing going public, see this as art, but Hollywood sees this as money. This is a business, and the problem is that we're not progressive and we're not gone far enough that we really know, actors in that community. So you need a Scarlett Johansson to put the butts in the seat to see the movie in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If without Scarlett Johansson in this movie, if they cast essentially an unknown, this movie's going to bomb.
But do you see the problem inherent in that thinking? If that thinking continues forever, name a famous transgender actor. Either of you. Name a famous one.
Andrew James.
Friend of the show, Andrew James. I mean, the only one I can think of is Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
Because the transgender community is marginalized and is smaller than the rest of the population. But do you know what's not a small population? People who want to act. And the fact that there are no real famous besides, a few names. I mean, I'm sure I'm overlooking a few, besides Laverne. But if there are no famous actors in the transgender community right now, that is on Hollywood. And those people need to start to be hired so that a transgender actor can be the one that puts the butts in seats because they're so fucking famous. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's the problem in this issue.
Well, this is also, I feel that this debate is similar to the voting for Republican or Democrat. When, you when you're getting stabbed either way, but you want to do the right thing and vote for like the Green Party or whatever. But the problem is, they're not going to win.
I look at it from the standpoint of they're not going to win if you're not going to vote for them.
And this is a little bit different, I feel.
Well, and it's hard to take a stance like when you have people that are breathing down your neck for your bottom line. When this movie has to turn a profit, it's hard to take the right stand and do the right thing when you know that your job and your livelihood might be on the line, whether this movie makes money or not. And with Scarlett Johansson, it does. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that this is how the capitalism of Hollywood works.
I get completely what you're talking about. Now, a lot of people have equated this to Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of the hero in Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. And I disagree with that because we mentioned on the show when that whole controversy was happening, because a lot of people were like, well, Scarlett Johansson is playing this character and this character's Asian and she's white, and that's whitewashing. Now, I'll agree that is whitewashing, but at the same time, if you actually talked with people from Japan, they actually wanted Scarlett Johansson to play that character because she plays well over there. So it made sense on a business standpoint for her to play that character. I also think it helps for the fact that, at least in the movie Ghost in the Shell, people who are American or have that Western European look, for the most part, are the robots. They're not humans, where it's the humans who are of Asian descent.
Well, and here's cynical John again.
Cynical.
This is a Japanese character, right? So what you do is you cast a white American woman so that, because the Japanese audience will still like it. It's going to play over very well in the United States because, we have somebody that looks like us. And you got to think about the Chinese market. They probably don't want a Japanese person in the movie. They will stomach more an American actress in the movie, for the China, the Chinese audience. So they're checking each box. Once again, it's for the bottom line, not for what's right.
And the interesting thing is that Scarlett Johansson's character in Ghost in the Shell, when she was alive, she was Asian. Mm-hmm. She was Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, before her brain got taken out and put into Scarlett Johansson's body, she was a Japanese actress. So they were able to, I think the whitewash thing blew up way too much.
You're now in a white woman. You have no choice but to get an Etsy account.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people took that too extreme, and I don't think they're the same thing. I think this is more of an issue because of the fact, as Laine mentioned, you can't tell me that there aren't transgender actors and actresses out there, that they don't exist.
Especially talented ones. I mean, talent is everywhere.
And more than likely, this type of film would be more in the realm of the art house indie type, one of the big art house indie type films that they would create. So I think they might, because this is an original movie, so obviously it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot. So it is going to fall in the realm of something that would basically get award bait.
Right.
So you're telling me you can't put an unknown in there, but maybe the supporting actors and actresses are maybe names? Like, that's the thing is,
the reason
they could have done this.
Well, the reason the studio spends so much money and so much time into getting nominated for Oscars is that for a lot of those movies that they took a chance on is the only way they make their money back on them. some of these movies don't even come anywhere near. We're in Pittsburgh, but we're a major city, but some of these movies don't even come anywhere near us until they're nominated for Oscars, and then they make all their money back. So I think that the movie the studio would have to really flex their muscles in hopes that this would get some kind of Oscar buzz or award buzz, or else it's going to be
that's what I'm saying is this type of movie for the most part is the cookie cutter award bait. Like that's what this type of movie is. So for them to put a star like Scarlett Johansson in, it really doesn't make much sense. Because it's not a blockbuster. It's not going to be one of those movies that's going to rake in, $200, $300, $400, $500 million in a weekend. It's going to play at small theaters. It's going to have an LA and New York run. And it's going to get enough that it can get nominated. So that's not to say that, that for me at least says more about the studio thinking more of about this in a mainstream way than in an art house indie way. Like,
yeah.
Well, and two, I just want to say, I know I say this a lot, guys, but, for this, the Ghost in the Shell, like, ultimately our opinions don't mean anything because none of us are people of color and we are not, part of the LGBT community. Like, so ultimately our opinions don't really matter. It really matters that we listen to, to people from the communities and they're in and get their take on everything. Yeah. So I think that's important to note as well. But I do think that, Scarlett did make the right move by exiting from the film. And regardless of how it's marketed or how it's positioned, I think that was smart on her part.
But I don't know about you guys, but my mom always says, I want to go see the new Johnny Depp movie. Or I want to go see the new Robert De Niro movie. And the thing is, because there is a segment of people now, granted, they're dying off. My mom's old as balls, but
wow.
She will never learn how to listen to a podcast, so it's fine.
Yeah, she doesn't listen.
We're safe.
I tried to show my mom how to listen to a podcast. It didn't work out well.
Happens.
But there is a whole segment of people that go see movies because of who's in them, and they don't even call them by the title. Like, I want to go see the new Johnny Depp movie. So I want to go see the new Scarlett Johansson movie. And what my fear is that because Hollywood is riddled with sex pervert scumbags, is that
we got a sex pervert scumbag problem.
All right.
Is that they don't take any chances anymore. And that's why we get a Yogi Bear movie, and that's why we get crap like that. Like, if this movie doesn't succeed because it doesn't have somebody like Scarlett Johansson in it, I feel like the studio's going to get even colder feet, and we're going to see a Woody Woodpecker. Well, we probably did already, but we're going to see more sequels and more reboots and more soft reboots because they're going to get cold feet on things that are challenging and interesting because it didn't turn a profit. And I think that is scary that we might not get films like this.
I see what you're
saying. Because they did the right thing.
Yeah, well, you have to take that risk, I think. You have to do what's right and hope that the world catches up eventually, so.
Well, the other thing I want to make a little closing point here is that, with these sorts of movies, the controversy surrounding it, even though it's unfortunate that it happened, it's only going to help it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I didn't know this movie existed until this controversy happened. Yeah. So when they do cast hopefully a transgender actress in that, that people will go see it because they want to see what was all the hoopla. Hopefully. So that's the one pause thing. It's almost the idea of there's no such thing as bad press, because people are talking about you regardless.
Right.
So cool. So yeah, into our main discussion this week are about strong women in film.
Now, Brian, I feel like you and I should lead on this.
Oh, I don't think we can.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Sorry, John. Your wiener can't fix this today.
Well, my opinions are the most valuable here.
No, that's not true at all. But thanks.
No. So, Laine, you wanna kick us off here?
Quiet, Elaine. The adults are talking.
Oh my God!
Holy
that's
shit.
enough out of you.
She's gonna strangle you with her microphone.
How many of those
Seriously?
jokes are we gonna get in this week?
I don't know. How many times am I gonna nut tap you later? It's gonna be fun to find out. So we definitely we're talking about strong women in film, and I kind of want to give my my take on this, because one of the things that you guys might find surprising is that, you know, just because there's a strong female character in a film, we're not really having a discussion about feminist films in this venue. You know, we will sometime, I'm sure, but and I will mention, you know, a few and mention the distinction, but one thing I'll say is that just because we have a strong female character does not mean a film is feminist, and there's several that aren't. So I want to be clear that, you know, the absence of sexism in a film does not equal feminism. So even if there is a single strong character, that's not necessarily going to give the movie a pass. And, you know, there are movies that I, you know, think that maybe aren't super feminist that do have strong female characters in them, and we can talk about the differences. You know, just for you all, dear listeners, to understand where we're coming from for some of this, we will be referencing something called the Bechdel test, and I'd like to break that down for you guys just in case anyone's not familiar.
I'm not familiar.
So the Bechdel test was named after American cartoonist Alison Bechdel, and it's a method for evaluating how women are portrayed in fiction. So not just film. This applies to fiction. This applies to comic books or graphic novels, you know, television, all of that. So anything that's in the realm of fiction, that's how this breaks down. And the Bechdel test asks if you know, there's two female characters in the film that talk to each other in a scene about something other than a man. So if you have two female characters and they're just talking about that D, doesn't count. Now, some iterations of the rule do also require that both of these characters have names, but that's not always the case. Now, that this is an interesting test because what I think is interesting is that so many works of fiction fail, even this, but I don't think the Bechdel test is a very strong litmus test for feminism in a film, because a lot of what you can see, I mean, you could have two women, you know, that are talking about something very benign or, you know, something very innate, and that could technically pass the Bechdel test even if they don't have any other feminist conventions to the film. There's another interesting aspect to this called the Mako Mori test.
Okay.
And so that was a character in the movie Pacific Rim, and it was the only female character, or she was the only female character that had more than 5 lines and had a goal of her own that was separate from the male leads. And that was created by the actress who played her. And I think that this is a little bit better of a test, you know, to kind of differentiate between the idea of a woman being the subject of a film or the object of a film. And I think that objectifying is really important to note. You know, like I said, with the Bechdel test, it's a start, but the kinds of things that these movies pass for is ridiculous.
Well, I actually have a list up of here of movies, recent movies that have passed or not passed the Bechdel test. And I'll just take a look at a couple of these real quick. A Quiet Place, which I think is unfair because there's only 3 characters in them.
It's a fail. What did you say?
Yeah, 2 of them are women. Well, there's 4 characters, but 2 of them are women, but one of them is deaf, so they can't hold a conversation.
Well, I mean,
sign language.
If you count sign language, then possibly.
Annihilation, which I can't believe that movie was ignored because, like, you know, all this hoopla over Ghostbusters, you know, the all-female Ghostbusters, like, Annihilation was actually a thoughtful movie that had intelligent women that were scientists, and they were pretty much the only cast in the whole movie.
Yeah,
and the movie was completely ignored.
Well, you said it was also not very good.
No. I said it was confusing and kind of complicated. The more time I had to think it over, like, yeah, it's actually very good.
Is it? I missed that one. I do want to
seen
check that out, you know, Redbox style or whatever.
Black Panther passed. Deadpool 2 did not.
Wow, big shocker there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was 2 female characters, and they didn't talk to each other that much. The one girl just spoke to Deadpool only.
Yeah. Incredibles 2 passed the test. Still doesn't make it a good movie.
Yeah, John didn't like Incredibles 2.
Somehow Isle of Dogs passed, but there was only one female character, and it's Scarlett Johansson of all people. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom passed, and I'll tell you why. I was thinking in my head, like, because you don't count the dinosaurs, I suppose.
You don't count the dinosaurs.
They're all girls in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. How do you know? Did you look up the dinosaur skirts? Is that Ron Howard's daughter was like, "Hey, little girl, you want to come with us?" "Oh, I do, because the guy my dad or grandpa put in charge is evil." "Okay, you can come with us now." "Good, because I don't want to be with him anymore." And that counts.
And see, this is my exact point. That's something that inane can count towards towards that. So I think that's, I think that's a shame that it's like that.
Guys, I got one more here though, and I'll leave it. Solo, a Star Wars story. Fail.
There's only a single female character. Of course it failed.
Yeah, and she's not to be
technically
trusted.
there's two female characters.
Well,
Woody Harrelson's wife, girlfriend,
And the robot.
and the
but
robot.
they never talked to each other, any of them.
No, they didn't. They
So
They do talk, but it's about Lando. So it's about a dude.
exactly. So that's kind of, I think, what, where we're kind of starting with this. We do talk about horror movies a lot, and we don't see a lot of positive women, because I don't want to, and I know we're gonna talk about this as well, but like, I don't think that we should always confuse the women as ass kicker trope. Like, just because a woman kicks ass does not mean she's a particularly feminist character. So John, I know you have some notes on that.
Yeah, let's before we jump into like good representations, it's more fun to talk about bad ones.
right that makes sense.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the tropes that that filmmakers constantly put women in.
Yeah.
Because like, I think the biggest problem here is, and I don't think I'm saying anything all that fascinating, is that the toxic patriarchy took over Hollywood, and most of the writers and directors are men because they made it that way, and then they write like male characters, and then all the women are their trophies. So that's just how movies are written. But there's
Objects.
Yeah, there's a thing called fridging, which I just recently found out about.
Oh, yeah. John, talk about this. This is
So,
interesting.
It's the idea of the disposable woman, or who is killed or hurt in order to encourage the man to go do something.
This is like Deadpool. Like, the Deadpool is actually guilty of this.
Yeah, Deadpool's the most recent example. And the idea of fridging comes from a Green Lantern comic where Green Lantern comes home and and he's ready to like get his steak on and maybe like get his HJ on, but he sees a note.
Lord alive.
But he sees surprise for you in the fridge, and he opens the refrigerator and it's his dead wife.
Oh,
And then
fridging.
he's like, "Oh,
Okay.
fuck! I'm gonna go kick some ass because they killed my bitch." So
wow.
So-
You got intense. I liked it.
and you see that a lot in movies. Like, now it's personal.
They killed my wife.
It's called fridging.
Killed my wife, prepare to die. Or daughters too, like like Taken.
Oh,
you
yeah.
took my daughter, who is
Yeah.
now just like a whiny, crying like thing that you kidnapped, but I'll come kill you now.
Yeah, well, it's like the trope that you hear of, like, where men are like, I didn't think about this stuff until I had my daughter, and now I actually care if women get raped. Like, wow, you're a fucking hero.
What's your wife think?
Yeah, what does
Yeah,
your wife
seriously.
think that it took your daughter to realize that women should have agency?
Yeah, and this article I do read here, like they point out Batman.
Like
they do
Death
make,
Wish.
Yeah,
Death Wish. Death Wish. Oh my god.
I mean, that's canon films, though. I mean, that is exploitation. to
no,
the
but
max.
what I mean is, like, you want to talk about your fridging?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole movie right there is fridging to the nth degree.
I think by the fifth one, they brought his wife back from the dead just to kill her again. But they do bring up like Batman, like a death in the family. They do say that like, there is fridging like with somebody like Robin, but they are quick to point out that if you look at the Killing Joke, like a death in the family was a long, nuanced storyline that happened over a long period of time, but then caused Robin to be killed to influence Batman. In the Killing Joke, Joker just shows up and shoots Barbara in the pussy, and like out of nowhere,
shoot her in the pussy.
in her ovaries, I guess,
Yeah.
her pelvis area.
I mean, mostly her spine, though, y'all,
her
because
spine.
she gets paralyzed.
Well,
And
There's-
it's in the stomach.
You
it goes
guys,
into the
you
spine.
guys can't get me started on the Killing Joke because I think it's so problematic and fucked up and absolutely damaging. I can't. Mm-mm.
well, the
Nope.
creator has kind of disowned it. Alan Moore, who's
They
one
should've.
of the most prolific comic book writers. I don't know.
He should have.
But moving on here, the woman who only has an adventure because her kids are dead. And this is one that I was reading about. I was like, "What is that a thing?" And that's really a
Is that the thing?
Yep, absolutely.
Where-
What's an
Absolutely.
example of that?
Gravity.
Oh.
Sandra Bullock decided to take this
Yeah.
risky adventure because her child had died, and George Clooney did it because he's George Clooney.
Also,
Sorry, I stole that from the article, so sorry, article.
Also, I would like to note that even though Gravity is mostly centered on a female character, female actress, I would not consider this movie to be that feminist, even though she's a strong character, because the solution to her problems comes out of George Clooney's mouth. Like, fuck that.
She has a delusion where she's mansplained to.
Yes, like whose deepest fantasy is to be mansplained to in fucking space?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that this is a good example of possibly problematic because her kid died and that's the only reason why she's a hero. But it's a stronger female character and it is a movie that focuses on a female character, but it's not feminist.
Well, that's this is like part of a larger social problem, right? The idea is that women can't go off and do amazing things because they have children to raise, but the men can.
You can't be soft and strong at the same time,
Yeah. Like, oh, you can't go out to that. You have to raise babies. Well, don't the fathers have to do that too? Why do they get to go off?
Nope. No, because when the dads do it, they're helping out. Oh,
Yeah.
he's such a good husband. He helps me with the baby. I'm sorry. Did he not create it with you?
Another one here. The sexy woman with the mind of a toddler. Like the Fifth Element rule.
Oh.
Fifth Element.
Or Mannequin.
Or I would argue Willie Scott in Indiana Jones. She's beautiful, but she is absolutely fucking useless, like a toddler.
No. I think they literally mean the mind of a toddler. Like in Fifth Element,
Okay.
the character is essentially kind of like born yesterday.
Oh,
And she-
childlike. I
Child,
see.
yeah.
I see. I didn't
Not-
see Fifth Element, so I'm out of my league
That
here.
would be
Meaning,
kind of like your manic pixie dream girl trope.
Yeah.
a little
basically.
bit. A little bit.
But yeah, they're essentially
see.
like an animal. They just kind of like make noises, and they have like their eyes are all buggy, and they're like, "Oh, help me! I'm completely
I'm helpless.
Yeah,
I need to be taken care of. I need to be rescued.
which is kind of creepy because it's like a sexy baby.
It's gross.
Yeah,
It's gross. You dudes are gross.
you have that in I hate to say it because I love it so very much. The original Planet of the Apes, Nova.
Yeah.
is,
That's true. That's true.
Mind of a toddler, sexy. You have the woman who can't stop thinking about her tits and ass because she's written by a dude.
What's the example of that? It kind of reminds me of the whole author thing on Twitter where this male author said like writing women isn't that hard and you should be able to do it. And the way he wrote women, like everybody went after him so hard. It was so amazing.
I'm sorry. I think it is extremely difficult to write women, especially when.
And this
you're
guy
a
did it so
man.
poorly and he was being so imperious about it. It was fantastic.
Well,
People
I'm-
tore him to shreds.
Well, I'm just so glad I have you because I can't write women and I don't pretend that I can.
Oh, yeah.
So I just write them as like dudes and I hand it to you and be like, make them ladies. But can we just mark that real quick? Can we take out where I said, hold on, guys, because you actually picked up the slack right there, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because that was me kind of breaking the fourth wall there.
That's fine.
Okay.
But here's an example. George R.R. Martin, when he introduced his 13-year-old, oh boy,
So this is author of
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Daenerys
Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Targaryen.
Targaryen, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, how do
for-
you say her last name? Do
I
you
think
know?
it's Targaryen.
Targaryen, but it's Daenerys.
Sorry
right?
for all the Game of
Daenerys.
Thrones fans. Yeah,
That's okay.
Like, how can you fuck up her name?
asshole. He feels the
That's
need
my
to,
dream girl.
he feels the need to point out that her small breasts move freely under her vest.
Yep.
Oh, good to know.
Good to know.
Well,
we
like,
need to know that, right?
Well, I
Because he
feel
gets like
like
a half a stiff, and he's like, "Yeah."
well, I feel like the existence of dragons and the invention of the bra are not two things that are intersected.
No.
Personally,
No, not at all.
And then lastly, she's a strong female character without any strength or character, which is, I think, the ass kicker who
right?
is
The
also
mindless
sex
ass kicker.
object. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, and that's not always the thing. I mean, I would say, I don't know. I would say possibly the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider
Yes.
character is guilty of that.
Oh, yeah.
Where she is mindlessly ass kicking without any other elements of real character.
Well, the article brings up Trinity.
Oh God!
Oh.
From the Matrix.
She has
Yeah.
no other character except being in love with Neo and shooting things.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And the whole thing with Trinity is that from the beginning of the movie until the very end of the first film, it's just, oh, I don't want to love Neo, but I know I'm going to. Like, that's her whole character.
No woman has ever said that about Keanu Reeves. but I'm going
on.
to.
But I'm going to.
But that's the thing. Like everyone points at to Trinity. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like Trinity is kind of the opposite in that because all she does is shoot guns and love Neo, but not want to love him. Yeah.
Which leads us to, I think, like, you know, kind of its own talking point in of itself. So, Laine, I want to get your opinion on the woman ass kicker as sex object, what I like to call the sucker punch rule.
Yeah, so I think that, again, you know, we make the distinction just because a character is, you know, presented as an ass kicker or presented as, you know, a strong quote unquote character, that doesn't necessarily, you know, make them a good example even for, you know, for young women and whatnot. I would say, you know, one of the tropes that you described, I think, you know, Beatrix Kiddo, the bride from, you know, Kill Bill, like she's only a hero because she thinks her child is dead. You know, and that's what sets off this whole chain of events. You know, another one that I think is a little problematic that you guys might be surprised at is, you know, is Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah.
I think because, well, because so she's a strong female character, but the films aren't really that female forward. You know, she is manipulated and is slaved by all these other male characters. And I tend to be harsher on films where a strong, like, romantic plot line, or in this case, like a love triangle is strongly played, because they're saying, oh yeah, she's strong, but don't worry, she still wants that D, everybody. You know, I feel that undermines
Like
the
the
strength
Bella
of the character.
Swan.
Yeah, a lot. I think that undermines. I mean, don't get me started on fucking Twilight. We're not here to talk about Twilight. That's an episode in and of itself. But I think that that's what's problematic about Katniss, is that they, especially in the movies, really emphasize that love triangle aspect, because, you know, they don't want her to be too strong. They don't want her to be too independent. She still needs a man. We just don't know which one. And I don't like that.
Now I'm okay if they actually do include some romantic element, as long as it's not the main focus of that character.
You know, it's not Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Where she's his prize.
Exactly. Like I don't. When we're talking about strong female characters, like I have my list has one character in particular that at the end of the movie does decide that she does want to have a relationship, even though the whole movie you're like, that's not her, and it ends with her basically, you know, finding out that the relationship's not going to work, and she decides that she's moving forward. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I think some people think if you have a strong female character, there can't be any romantic element at all. I don't think that's realistic. You know, I think human beings, by just their very nature, see some element of romance and relationships in there. I just think it's a matter of not making it the central focus of the character.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll rebut that a little bit just to kind of like play the flip side of that coin, Brian. Like, okay. I think it's, you know, for a lot of people, yeah, they do end up falling in love, and you can be strong and fall in love. Like, I mean, I consider myself a strong woman, but like I fell in love when I was 21, you know, like right. with this idiot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you, babe.
That's fair.
I love you, babe. But, you know, I don't think that the two are, you know, not mutually exclusive, but I don't think that they're mutually like prohibitive. You know, you can have both.
Right.
But what films typically end up telling us, and they do tell us things, especially women, is that they need that man. They need that relationship, especially
absolutely. Because
they're always portrayed as heterosexual relationships, which is also incorrect to the standards of today anyway. But they say you need that man, you need that love, you're not whole without it. And that's what we're always told as women, is that you're not whole without a man.
Right.
Which is problematic and untrue for a myriad of reasons, including the reasons of, you know, not everyone is heterosexual, but also we don't need men necessarily.
Well, for every woman, she can't fill a hole without a man.
Sorry.
Why are you this way?
No,
my God.
No, but seriously, folks, like, I think relationships in movies, they need to be earned and not just given.
Right.
Like, people just freaked out on me when I said I didn't really like Baby Driver. And one of the problems I had with it is that he had a pussy trophy.
Yeah.
She didn't have much of a character. He just, he wasn't a very good person, and he wanted it, and he got it, and then he goes to, sorry if you haven't seen Baby Driver, skip ahead 10 seconds. Don't turn it off. Just skip ahead 10 seconds. He goes to jail, and she just waits for him, even though he doesn't even have that much of a character. And she's there when he gets out of jail, and he's like, "Oh, look, my pussy's still here." Like, it's shameless. But
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, does a good job on this. And there's a lot of people that say, why aren't Star-Lord and Gamora together? Well, she's dead now.
Spoiler alert. Shit.
But, they make a good point is that Star-Lord isn't mature enough yet to deserve her. Maybe they'll get together in the third one. Or even the fourth one.
In Infinity War.
But isn't that saying that like he still does eventually earn her like an object, like a trophy? I mean, if you put it in,
you earn things by maturity.
Possibly, but I mean, it still makes her the prize at the end. I mean, he's just going to put maturity coins into the vending machine of life, and eventually her vagina is going to pop out as his prize.
Where can I get these maturity coins?
But, but do you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
I want a green chick.
That is still setting it up that she is the object of his desire, and that makes her the object.
I definitely get it, and I mean, this is Marvel and Disney we're talking about here, not exactly the poster children for representation.
Nope.
But I think what's interesting about that is it's the exact opposite of like what they did with Black Widow, where Black Widow up until Age of Ultron was, in my regard, a pretty strong female character. She didn't really need anyone. She doesn't really need a man to be as strong as she is. She does kick ass. And what do? In Age of Ultron, they make her weak. They suddenly bring up the fact, she can't have kids and she's a monster.
But you mean from Lady Expert Joss Whedon?
Yes.
God.
But like that's my point is
sad.
They in one movie they completely fucked her character up to the point where
she also wants that Hulk D.
She does want that Hulk D.
And why won't you be with me? Because I'm a giant evil monster. So what?
Or it's like, if I have sex with you, my penis will rip you apart. Yeah. Like, literally rip you apart.
Well, in the first Avengers, wasn't she kind of into, like, Mr.
Hawkeye.
Bow and Arrow? Yeah, Hawkeye.
Mr. Bow and Arrow. But my point...
The problem is, too, because of her own inner turmoil. I mean, the film got caught, in a lot of crossfire for this because it was, a very antiquated stance. Because not only, do we find out in that movie that she was rendered sterile as a part of her training, but how torn up she is over it. And, and I'm not saying that there's one way to be a woman, but I felt like the movie was telling us that there's one way to be a woman. And she felt that she was less of a woman because she couldn't have kids. And that's not true.
Can I say something?
Oh, go ahead.
A lot of the flack came from her saying I'm a monster, but I really, really do not think that she was saying I'm a monster because I can't have kids. She was saying it because they trained her to be a cold-blooded murderer.
I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that, but I also think that her like pain and turmoil of not being able to have kids, like I think was just like a very easy trope. Because, and again, everyone's different. I'm not trying to generalize any woman's experience, but I personally, if I found out that I was sterile, right? No. Yeah. Are you guys sterile? And
barren.
I'm
You're
barren?
infertile.
I'm barren, infertile.
Barren.
Okay. Anyway, if I found out that like I didn't have any eggs or something,
You're a baby
it wouldn't
coffin.
really bother me that much because kids aren't a part of my plan.
Right, but I think there's a way to go about it rather than wrapping it in a relationship taco.
Right.
Like that's the whole thing is they went ahead and said, oh, look at all this stuff about Black Widow. She's all broken up about this because she's, barren and can't have kids and she's a monster. But it's all because of this relationship she wants to have with Hulk. And that's the problem. Is they didn't just have that sort of thing happen. Like, they didn't have scenes where maybe Black Widow is in the corner crying and not hanging out at the party because the fact that all these memories of this shit happening to her are flooding her and coming back. They didn't have to introduce this whole Hulk love romance triangle thing going on here to get to that. Like, there's other ways about it.
Well, too, like I said, I'm sorry to cut you off, John. I wanted to talk about like the idea of like character. I mean, this is the most of her character that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And for that to be like such a huge part of it when we don't know that much else about her, like, if I know that like she's all sad about her eggs, but I don't even know this character's favorite fucking color, like that's a problem because you've not fleshed out the character enough.
That's right.
You've made it about her.
That's right.
In one way, and I think that that's problematic.
I think Thor's favorite color is chartreuse.
And I think it undermines her, her actual character.
Right.
Well, Laine, let me ask you: Do you think that that's just typical male perspective that men just automatically think, oh well, women like the greatest thing that they want to accomplish or do is make babies,
and if they can't, it's the worst thing ever. Yeah. Absolutely, I think that that's something that a man wrote. I don't think that that's something that a woman wrote. I really don't.
Well, it was woman expert Joss Whedon. Except when it comes to his wife.
God, I'm just so sad.
Keep paying the bills. I'm gonna bone chicks on the road and live my fantasy. I'm sad and stuff. Drink more wine. You spend my money,
guys.
bitch.
You guys, I can't get started on. Can't get started on it.
Look, shut up, sugar tits. I'm trying to write Buffy because I'm in touch with women. Now go make me a sandwich.
Can y'all stop? Like, it hurts me because I love Buffy so much and I am so mad at him. I literally threw out all my Joss Whedon books. I was like, I can't. I was like, fuck it. Because it was like
I bought you most of those.
Well, it was like feminism and Joss Whedon, and I was like, that dude is not a fucking feminist. I mean, I didn't throw him out.
Burn him.
I sent him to like a trade-in place, so like I got money back for him. But like, fuck him.
Because I think we got a little deviated here. We're talking about sex object as ass kicker. Is there any greater example than Lara Croft?
Yeah. I do think that that's true. I mean, especially because she was a video game character first. I mean, that's a world that is not known for its feminist, female-forward storytelling. It's a very male-dominated area. And and bro gamers, come at me. Don't give a shit. But I think that what they ended up doing then, like I said, I mean, I just said Tomb Raider's Lara Croft was a problematic character in the Angelina Jolie iterations because she was just an ass kicker because she was, and then they made her really smart, and that was supposed to be like,
she's wearing a
more
lab
of a
coat in
character,
the scene,
right? Or she's like fluent in like ancient Sumerian. Like we're supposed to believe that as a part of her character. Especially using someone like Angelina Jolie, who is oftentimes objectified for her looks.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, this is diverging away from film, but I think that the new video games have done a good job of desexualizing her and changing her appearance.
I haven't seen the new Tomb Raider film.
It was terrible, but I loved it anyway. I enjoyed it. It was terrible, but I enjoyed it. But again, they did a pretty good job of that. I thought, what I really liked about the movie was that there was no romantic element.
Okay.
Again, you don't need that D to be whole, ladies. But but again, like it was very male driven though, because, her father is missing. That's a huge plot point. All of the male or villains are male. Like, there isn't really another woman throughout the film too much. I think it does pass the Bechdel test. But again, those parameters are very narrow. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It does. Yeah. I mean,
I just saw it a second ago.
well, I mean, it does pass it, but but again, like these margins are narrow. They don't have to do much, but the fact that most movies can't even do this much is mind-boggling to me.
Laine, can I ask you a side question here?
Yeah. What up?
This has always bothered me, and maybe I'm really overthinking this, but just to use an example, like the Power Rangers movie. Take all the feelings out of that. But the guys have Power Ranger outfits that look like they are for utility. And then the ladies have basically the same outfits, but with like titties and curves. Like they should have, like they don't have a sexy fire lady outfit. I mean, outside of stripper clubs, like, the lady firemen wear the same outfits as the male firemen.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't they have the same outfit as the guys?
Oh, I mean,
why are they that form fitting that we have to see their titties
Wasp,
and
like last
butt?
week's episode, Ant-Man and Wasp. Like, her
She had
outfit
boobs.
is sexy as hell, right? Yeah. Shouldn't it be like Ant-Man's outfit and be for utility?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you do kind of need a space for the girls, I suppose. But I mean, this is a very common trope where, of course, like the woman, even if she kicks ass, like she's sexualized. I mean, there's a reason why Wonder Woman doesn't wear pants, guys.
The thing is, there are versions of Wonder Woman where she does wear pants. And she does have more of a utilitarian type of costume.
That was big thing, and that was a big controversy when she wore pants. Like,
but that's a big meme. I mean, like if male superheroes were dressed like female, I mean, like I've seen other iterations, especially with like video game ones.
Everybody, Laine just showed us an image of sexy men.
And I'll definitely put this up on our Instagram, guys, so you guys can see it because it's pretty funny. But again, too, like this is very common in video games, where women are completely sexualized in their outfits, and that was, I think, where a lot of the Lara Croft stuff came from.
You could say that our good buddy Zack Snyder did do that with 300. The men were wearing, skimpy outfits
But that doesn't. I mean, that doesn't make it feminist, though.
Oh, no, not at
I mean,
all.
name a single female character from that film. Like
There are none.
I forgot all of them.
There are none.
Right here we go.
Brian's like, here's a good example.
This is the one I was thinking
There are
of. If male video
The
game.
thing. There's a good example.
This is what I was thinking of. If male video game characters were dressed like female characters.
What the hell? That's a giant dong.
I mean, it's wrapped. It's not naked. I'm not
Okay.
showing you. Just, dear listeners, I'm not
That
showing.
is a giant
but like,
dong.
but these memes, like, this is a thing because there's a horrible double
Make sure
standard.
to tune in next week for Laine shows images that you can't see.
I'm gonna put it on our Instagram so that you guys know what we're talking
Their
about.
Instagram's gonna get torn down.
I mean, maybe I'll like blur it out. I don't know.
shit.
But anyway, but yeah. So I mean, like, I think that's a problem in the superhero kind of thing
Yeah.
because honestly, like, I didn't realize like how like hungry I was for a real feminist superhero story until I saw the Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
Because like, all right, guys, I'm sorry, like. Just to like shit on things just a little bit.
That's cool. Please.
The beginning of Wonder Woman, where we are on the mascara, and it's just women in charge doing all these athletic things, and there just isn't a fucking dude in sight, was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen because over and over again in films we are told what we want, we are told who we are as women, but like that movie felt like who we are as women. Like for me, it felt like as a woman, like, and just like to not have a fucking dude explaining something to somebody was just so great.
Or even like
I
to
loved
have
it so
even like to
much.
have that old sage who just gives you like who narrates the plot for you.
Right.
The old male sage who just
It was
says,
just-
well, thousands of years ago, blah, blah, blah.
It was, yeah.
Could you imagine that if there's just one elder on the island? It's like the wise sage, the man. All the women, are like,
Right?
"Ah!"
Because, and again, you know, like I'm sure, like, you know, if someone's listening out there and they're like, oh, well, fuck you, like there's can be guys in movies too, but like that's all I see all fucking day, every day. I don't see the representation of just women, even though that's oftentimes my experience. I mean, I get together with just my female friends sometimes, and there is a very special energy that does come from that.
I get it.
You know, and to see that on screen, like I didn't realize how much it meant to me until I was watching it, and I just felt this amazing feeling of like being seen. And that's all anybody wants to see, and it reflected in their art. They want to feel seen, and I did, and it was absolutely amazing.
So I know John and I, we were told to come up with 5 female characters from movies.
And I'm gonna shit on them whether
And
I
you're
like them or
gonna
not.
shit on them whether
no,
you
I'm
like
just
them or
kidding.
not.
I know. I thought it'd be cool.
So I got 5, and you're probably gonna hate them.
Well, we'll talk about them. Let's talk about
Okay.
them.
So do you want me to go first, John?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead, Brian.
so-
Hit me.
My first one is Ellen Ripley, which is kind of everyone's go-to, but only from the first Alien.
Okay.
Because I think they fucked up her character in Aliens.
They made her a mommy.
They made her a mommy,
Yeah,
which was
and-
the problem.
And I can see how
Because she lost her child, so she went
That's
on a
right.
great adventure.
That's right.
and I can see how she makes a lot of these lists. My only contention with Ellen Ripley is that she doesn't have a ton of other character other than just kicking ass.
In the first Alien, she pretty much is takes over the ship,
But she's not fleshed out. Like we don't know her. We don't, see her entirely.
She takes command of a lot of situations.
She does.
Like, she quarantines the ship and does not let the...
You guys aren't listening. She's
Okay.
not a fully fleshed out character. She's just taking charge and kicking ass because the script calls for it. She's not a full person. She doesn't feel organic and real. I mean, she does, take charge of the situation, but that's also a very common 80s trope, like the bossy woman. She's not necessarily like backed by other women in this case.
No,
Boiling.
I really don't, because okay, here's the thing: you compare her to the other female character that was on that crew,
Right.
who would be more or less
She was useless.
She was a
Right.
useless trope. And you also have to think about the time that this movie came out. Okay,
1979.
So this is 1979 we're talking about here.
Right.
Okay, typically in movies like this, the female characters weren't the heroes of these horror films.
Well, I'm being hard on it. I know that. I'm being hard on
that's
it because
kind of
of
the
like,
way I look at it.
But again, like for me, like I'm not just going to give it a pass because of its time, though.
Yeah.
Because for me, for there to be a strong woman character in 1979, and for that to be groundbreaking, like that to me is pathetic. Anyway, so I have
Okay.
a hard time with that. Anyway,
I do think it's interesting that Ellen Ripley was originally written as a man, and they didn't change anything about the character except the gender.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, that is great. I mean, like I said, I would want a little bit more from the actual character aspect, but I mean,
Right.
the strength I have no problem
Right.
with, and the way that it plays out in the film is good.
Next on my list, again, you're probably going to hate this one, is Selena Kyle in Batman Returns.
Overly sexualized and
come
and the trope of
Brian,
women.
I gotta fight you on that one too.
and
She's nothing but just like
And
a
the-
horny psychopath.
Well, no, and the trope of woman is crazy because she
But
goes
she
nuts in the
takes
movie.
control of her own destiny in it.
But-
Batman offers to have a relationship with her and take her to his castle, and she says, "Fuck you! I'm doing my own thing."
But she's pulled around by every man in the movie.
Well, she
she's,
kills herself.
She's pulled.
No, she doesn't kill herself.
Well, there's that scene at the end that doesn't count.
That counts.
We never got a movie out of it,
Yeah, it's true.
We
but
did.
But she's
which will be in about 3 weeks.
she doesn't have as much agency as you think, though, because her circle of being comes about because of Max Schreck. She is led around, like she partners up with the Penguin, and she's obsessed with Batman / Bruce Wayne, basically, like trying to foil him. Like she doesn't really have her own character or her own goals. She's just led around by the men in the film.
No, I get your point, and I definitely see it, but I also have to take into consideration the fact that she does decide, like as I said, at the end of the movie, she decides not to do what I guess throughout the whole movie she wanted, was to have that relationship with Bruce Wayne Batman. She decides to do her own thing.
And I respect that, but just saying no to the D doesn't necessarily make you a feminist character or a strong character. Now, the Selena Kyle character, in some iterations of Batman, like I can see being more feminist, especially there's an iteration of her where she is a lesbian, right?
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller.
Oh, Frank Miller. Oh, so it's like
Yeah.
fetishized.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
She's also a whore.
I think that the
a literal whore.
yeah, but so I mean that necessarily doesn't bother me. I mean, sex work is really stigmatized. So, but I think it can be feminist in some
from Frank Miller's
considerations.
point of view.
Yeah, well, Frank Miller's an asshole, and none of his stuff is feminist in any stretch. But I think she's overly
Okay.
sexualized. Brian,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I have to
That's
vote that
okay.
one down too.
All right, I have
Elaine craps on everything.
crap on this next one. Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road.
I don't have a huge problem with that one. That one's okay. That one's okay.
Thank you.
I mean,
I get a win.
I think that character, as far as a lot of these go, is just because it's so far outside of the realm of everything. I think that it's hard to put it in like a real context because this is a very dystopian kind of world that it's hard to picture. So I think the reactions of people are
I
a little
compare
different.
her to the personalities of the brides in that film.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And she is
I'm
absolutely
not saying
100% strong. And
Well, and I
really, Max becomes kind of the side character
in his own movie.
Absolutely, and I think that again, like I think that it was a great performance by Charlize Theron. I think that it is a good example. Like I have no problem with that because
Yeah.
I think that there are elements of strength, but she also does take on a little bit of the elements of like caretaker because she is ensuring everyone's safety.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important. The two, you can be strong and soft. You don't have to be one or the other, and your strength can be in your softness. So yeah.
Okay, my next one is again probably from a director who really doesn't get women. Beatrix Kiddo from Kill Bill.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think it falls into the trope of she's only a hero because her kid died. I think I think that there are good elements there, but too, one of the things we haven't talked about yet, but I think strong women characters, a lot of times that's portrayed in women on women crime.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's particularly helpful or feministic either because women do tend to take each other down and it's not productive and it doesn't serve any greater points of feminism. And so when you think about that movie and how it's a lot of just like bitch fighting, basically,
It's a lot of that,
I
but
think it takes away.
I don't know. I get the idea of the revenge film, especially being kind of susceptible to these tropes that you're talking about,
Right.
I don't see her revenge. I don't see her revenge completely motivated by her kid dying. Okay,
I could see that.
It's more or less that her own people decided that she could not get out of the life that she was in and decided to kill not only they tried to kill her. They tried to kill her family, her friends, and her soon-to-be husband. So that's kind of what led to it. That's what led to that revenge.
I could see that.
What about the idea of a strong female character in a kind of sexist movie to be?
It happens.
I mean,
I've seen
does
it.
that kind of undermine everything? Because
I've seen it.
What does she fight? A young Japanese girl who looks underage in a schoolgirl outfit. Sexy, it's like
right. Well, I mean, it could be possible to have a strong character and for the rest of the film to be kind of,
That's what I'm saying. I think
much.
she is a strong female character. You might say that, like the other thing too is when is she ever talking about a relationship in that film? Never.
Right. I mean, but again, like the
she
absence.
had a relationship with Bill though, didn't she?
Yes,
She
but
did.
that's not the focus of the movie.
I mean, it eventually becomes though when we realize that her child is alive. Spoiler alert from 1999. But
2003 and 2005.
is it really?
Oh yeah,
I thought it was 90s. Oh,
No,
you know what? I was in college, so you're right.
99
It
was
couldn't have
Jackie
been.
Brown, I think.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, I mean, I think you can have the absence of a romantic relationship doesn't necessarily make a film feminist, and the presence of one doesn't necessarily mean the opposite. I have no problem with relationships being in films.
Okay.
It just depends on whether that's the woman's goal or not, or if she has other goals in the film and has her own character.
Okay. And my last one, I don't know if you've seen this movie, these series of movies or not, but I have Lisbeth Salander from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh yeah, So I saw.
And I'm talking about the series of.
I saw the Fincher
Dutch
one,
films.
and I'm reading the books still, kind of. I started like the first one and the second one, but yeah, I mean, I could see that. I can't speak to that too much because I didn't see the Swedish films. I heard they're great.
They're amazing.
I heard they're much better than the
They
Fincher
are
first
so
one that he
good.
did. But yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to kind of see more of that. Where. It seems to me that this character has her own objectives and
she
goals.
absolutely does. I mean, the scene. I love the scene where she, because she's a hacker for a software company,
Right.
and she's also under legal guardianship, and her legal guardian is a sadist and a rapist who takes advantage of her entire, basically adolescence and adult life.
That's so gross.
And the one scene where she basically sodomizes him.
Yeah, there's a similar scene
and
in the Fincher
rapes
one.
him.
Hard to watch.
Oh, it's much better
With a cactus, right? Or is
No, it was an anal plug.
Anal plug.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
watch.
then tattoos on his chest. I'm a sadistic pig and a pervert and a rapist. While he's agonizing and duct taped down. It's amazing. Like her character's amazing. Also, you want to talk about agency? She initiates kind of a relationship with mostly a sexual relationship with the main character Michael Blomkvist.
Right.
And when I made mention of, and she was like, "This is really just a thing. It's not a relationship. Don't even think about it."
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, when I made mention earlier in the episode about I have a character who wouldn't even think about having a relationship, and she eventually at the end of it decides she does, it's her. Because at the end of the movie, she acknowledges that she's fallen in love with Michael, but on her way to tell him, she finds that she sees him with his former lover and decides that cutting off
the
all
Fincher movie
contact
ends that way
with-
too.
It's the same thing, but I liked the fact that she decides when she wants to have a relationship. She decides when
You don't
she
see that a lot.
wants to get revenge. And it's not just, oh, we both came together, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it's really, it makes a very strong character. And that's why she honestly is the one who kind of takes over for the series. Like, she becomes the main protagonist.
That's cool.
Through the other films.
It's cool. Cool.
So,
Good list.
Laine, to ask you a question on that, what do you think of the, and I know I like this is a brand new question. We've talked about this constantly on this podcast about using the rape convention for, then she goes and gets her sweet revenge against the rapist.
Well, I mean,
trope.
we've seen that before, especially in more exploitative films. Like I Spit on Your Grave is a good example of the revenge from rape scenario. I think it's character to character. I mean, I know that it's not the entirety of the movie. She has other goals in it's girl with the dragon tattoo. That's the first one,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not her entire goal. It wasn't in the Fincher movie either. It's not in the book either. So I mean, if it's not the entire
the
plot,
rape stuff's in there.
no, I mean, it's not the entirety of her character.
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
the entire
no.
point of the film.
No.
So I think like the issue is of focus and of the time spent. So I think
Right.
that makes a big difference.
I feel that that's something very unique to women, though. It's like you look at like Commando. It's like they've tracked him down. They came to his home. They took his daughter. Now he gets revenge. Let's just imagine that movie a little differently. They came to his home. They tracked him down. They raped his butt. Now he's out for revenge. I'm not gonna see that
It
movie.
sounds ridiculous
I don't want
when you
Arnold
say
getting
it.
ass raped.
Nobody wants to see anyone being ass raped, I would like to say. And I would like to say that I think the presence of rape in film is something that should be handled a lot more delicately and sparingly than it is, because I'm not sure that it necessarily serves any greater purpose in art. But that's another day for another podcast.
Yeah. So, John, you got your list.
Can I crap on yours too now, hun?
She's going to crap on yours.
So excited.
I just feel that there's like our Gamergate male audience is like, fuck this episode. This
So-
bitch.
I welcome the ads. Come at
All
me,
right.
bro.
All right, I have
On Twitter only.
I have for consideration next time. I have an extra one here.
Okay, well, just give me your list.
All right, Leia Organa before Jedi. I have for
Yeah,
as my
I think noting before Jedi is really important, though. Though some of the moments in Empire where she is being like kissed against her will, it's not good. It's not good writing. It makes me uncomfortable now.
All right, so my list here. I have Maggie Fitzgerald from $1 Million Baby.
Okay, yeah, we talked about this last night. I've actually not seen $1 Million Baby, but why don't you give me the reasons why?
Well, her whole goal is to be a boxer and
Right.
to be great.
Right.
And, she had a shitty upbringing and she knows she's a fighter and she wants to be a good fighter and she pushes Clint Eastwood,
I don't train girls. I don't train girls.
which is, I don't train girls in case you couldn't decipher
In case
my
you
Clint.
couldn't, you're not fluent in old man.
Yeah. And so, but he decides to take her on and she becomes great. Now, at the end of the movie, once again, spoiler alert, she gets paralyzed and all she ever wanted to be was a boxer. And if she has to spend the rest of her life as a vegetable with the kind of family she has, that she asked Clint, her manager, slash, father figure in this
Right.
to take her life.
Right.
And in
Unplug
the end,
her.
he does,
Right.
because she doesn't want to live that way.
Agency, which isn't always seen that easily. Totally.
So that's my
Right.
number 5.
That's cool.
Sorry, it's hard. I know to talk about these if you haven't seen them, but this one's cheating. I have Thelma and Louise.
Burp, burp, burp.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's fair.
But here's the problem. There was a lot of people are like, which one's Louise and which one's Thelma? People get them confused quite a bit. I have Sarah Connor from Terminator 2, not Terminator 1.
Right.
yeah.
But you know what's interesting about that? She had more character in the first one. She had interests and friends. And like, it's interesting to me that like the foil of Olive Skynet is kind of robotic herself.
Well,
And doesn't have
what's
much
interesting
character
about
besides kicking ass.
What's interesting about Sarah Connor is I view that as more of a transformation for her. Like, in the beginning of the film, yeah, she has characters and friends, but she's more concerned about, who I'm going to go on a date with and blah, blah, blah. And it really isn't towards the end of the movie after Kyle Reese has died and she then becomes the soldier that we see in Terminator 2. Becomes that person with agency, becomes that more feminist hero.
Yeah,
by
but
the
like,
second film.
but she loses almost like elements of her humanity. Like you don't see her really relating to any other living thing after that.
But she gets him back. That's her whole arc, is that she learns to love and be affectionate to John because she had lost that.
Right.
Why
I mean,
do
it
you
does.
cry?
It does come back.
Why
I
do you cry?
could see that. I could see that.
What's wrong with your eyes? Number 2, Marge Gunderson from Fargo.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because she like does the damn thing and she's pregnant the whole time. That's
Yeah.
a good one, John. I like that.
You okay there, Margie? Yeah, I just think I'm getting a birth. And I want to get your take on this. Like, not only is she very good at her job and very brave, but she's also like a very good wife in the movie. Mm-hmm. Not that you have to be like,
Good wife, how?
she's like she has, well, her and her husband have a very good
She has
relationship.
they
she's
have a
very
healthy relationship with her
Yeah,
husband. Yes.
and I think that's nice. I think that can be really feminist to see good examples of a relationship functioning.
But it has very little to do with the movie. Like you only really see him kind of towards the beginning and end, but it's not crucial to the story, but it's like, oh, she's
Right.
more than just this detective unraveling this horrible.
And that's what I like to
story.
see, fully fleshed out women, especially in films like that,
And my last one here is Laine Hansen from The Contender.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I never saw that movie.
Oh, well, I love Joan Allen, like regardless of, I fucking love her. So that's that's a kind of an easy one. But yeah, I think that's an example of too, like how the world really still is even 18 years later. Like there'd be so much backlash over trying to put a woman in charge of the country.
Well, yeah, because she's running for vice president, and there's these hearings whether she, should deserve the nomination because there's a supposed scandal, like a sexual scandal, but it's not really a scandal. It's just like they're kind of playing off the Clinton era kind of thing,
okay.
Right?
Like I think there was some tape of her in like a gangbang in college or whatever, like. And
Yeah, I was
Weird.
gonna say, like,
That's
apparently
weird.
that shit doesn't really matter nowadays.
yeah, I'm forgetting the exact details. But the thing is, she fights and fights and fights, and then at the very end, like she is allowed to have the nomination for vice president, but then they find out that the tape was fake or never was real to begin with, and they said, why didn't you fight this in the sense of, that the tape wasn't real? And she basically makes the point, because I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Yeah.
the point, whether the tape was real or not. It was that they were coming after me for having consensual sex, and I'm a woman in power. Like, ooh, how scary and awful, so.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an unexpected pick, John, but that's a good one. I don't think I've seen that movie since it came out.
I don't
So
think
it's
I've
been
seen it.
almost 20 years.
I think I saw it in 2008, the last time I saw it, so it's been like a decade.
Wow, it's still been a decade for you. That's crazy. So that's for those were good picks. I thought those were good ones, dude.
Cool.
I did think those were good ones. Now, I picked a few that I think you guys might find unexpected, because for me, I thought that a lot of strength in characters, could be emotional strength. Like I think that the trope that like you have to put a woman in spandex to make her an ass kicker, I think is kind of ill-informed.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some all women movies or mostly women led movies that I think do show portrayals of strong women, and more importantly, like I said before, and we didn't get into it in too much detail, but I think really important aspects of strong female characters are women who build up other women, and even if it's girls, if they're younger, girls supporting girls, now obviously again the books do a better job of this than the movies. The movies are okay, but the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants I think is a good example, because it shows how girls and women fight, and it shows how they still stay friends. Now, an important thing about this though is that they all have some issues, especially in the first one, that do not center around boys, because that's very common in like teen movies, but it deals with really serious things. One of the characters has a terminally ill friend. Another character is trying to fit in like with her parents' divorce and her dad remarrying. It's other issues besides like, oh, that boy doesn't like me. John and I fought tooth and nail about this the other night, but I think Clueless is a good example of feminism, and we disagree fundamentally. But I think that Cher Horowitz is a good example of a character who genuinely wants to be a better person and is limited perhaps by her own shallowness to know what that really means. Because John and we disagreed. You said, John, that you think she only does things because it makes her feel good. I think she does things because she is trying to better herself. Too, I think
She also do things to get the boy.
In some instances, yes, but I think what was a strong part of her character is that the object of her affections turns out to be gay, and she doesn't bat an eye. Like I think that's like an important thing.
No,
she
but
doesn't feel rebuffed.
But,
she doesn't.
But doesn't
like,
she like? That's one guy that she goes for. But doesn't she eventually
Rudd.
go for Paul Rudd?
Well,
and
it's
try to do things
interesting
for
because that's
Paul Rudd.
a more organic situation. She goes after Christian personally. Because she has a crush on him, and when it doesn't work out, she kind of just organically spends a lot of time with Josh. That's Paul Rudd's character's name, and they just sort of end up together. It's more organic than that. It's not something that she manipulated or fought her way through. I do think that it's a strong character. I think Amy Heckerling did a good job.
Well, to me, she's decided what's best for everybody.
In a way,
Instead
but I
of
mean,
letting them decide.
but that doesn't necessarily not make her a strong female character. It may not make her like a good protagonist in your eyes. You know?
I would say that's more or less the truth.
But
there.
like I said,
because there are things that she does, like with her her friend. I forget what her
with
name
Ty.
is.
With the makeover, I mean,
where they're like, oh, you don't want to date this guy. He's a skater guy.
Right.
You don't want to be with him. Be
Right.
with this guy. He's a slime ball.
And we need to make you look more appropriate to our school.
right. I mean, she, the whole thing with Elton, like that was Cher's mistake. But I mean, as soon as Elton revealed himself to be a predator, like that was that. Like she didn't still push Ty on him or anything. Like I mean, it had blown up anyways. But I think that was a good example.
At the end of the day, she's a virgin that can't drive.
But I mean, I think the way that they wrap everything
matters.
up, I think they do prioritize friendship. You know, the way that they present the film, and like I said, I genuinely think that she does things because she wants to better herself and the world around her. You know, whether that's disagreement, I think that makes
Stacey Dash
a
needs
difference.
to win somewhere.
Oh man, Stacey freaking Dash. I think Bridesmaids is another good example of like strong female characters. I wouldn't count Kristen Wiig's character as a strong female character because a lot of the film is about her trying to find strength again, and she makes a lot of mistakes. But I think that, it does prioritize friendship and the element that it is like girl on girl crime, with Rose Byrne's character where they're kind of like pitted against each other. That is a major plot point, but they do eventually resolve it like adults, so I think that counts for a lot of it. But some of the characters that I came up with, I think maybe would be a little surprising. Obviously, at the top of my list is Hermione Granger. I'm obviously more fond of her from the books, but I think that a really strong example of Hermione's strength is in Deathly Hallows 2 when she wipes out her parents' memories. Or is that maybe that's Hallows 1? I always mess those up because
No,
it's
it's the second one. It's the very beginning of the
that's what I
second
thought.
movie.
Okay, but when
Obviously, it's one book.
when she obliviates her parents, I mean to completely wipe your parents' memories of any memory they have of you.
Wow.
As an only child with a good relationship with her parents, like I mean, I relate to that really strongly. It makes me cry every fucking time when you see her like disappear from the photos and stuff. I think that took an insurmountable amount of strength. Surprisingly, the Harry Potter movies are not. They don't pass the Bechdel test, or if they do, it's like for really stupid reasons. Because a lot of the times everything centers around Harry, which is a male character, which I think is unfortunate because the books do a much better job of showing us the female characters.
The story is called Harry
But
Potter.
it is, but I mean, but Hermione kicks ass. She's pretty much better than Harry in every single way.
Okay.
I think another good example
We can
of
all agree Ron's not better than anyone.
I think a really good example of a strong female character also is Moana. Because at the end of the day, she goes on this quest to restore the heart to Te Fiti, but what ends up restoring the heart is her humanity, is her empathy, is her kindness. She realizes that Te Ka is actually Te Fiti, and she goes to show softness, and that is, a form of strength. I like that it wasn't just being overpowered, and she didn't just like beat the villain or beat up the bad guy. She let her guard down and she showed humanity. I think that's a good one. I think, surprisingly, Sarah Bailey from The Craft. I think she's a good example. I have a lot of problems with this movie as a feminist construct, even though I love it because I'm a child of the 90s.
I love that movie.
It's a lot of girl on girl crime, which I don't like. It's a lot of ostracizing. It's a lot of mean girling. And I remember reading, in the Christine Taylor parts where she goes after, Bonnie, I think.
Yep.
For her blackness, basically. I mean, when she's
Bonnie was Nev Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Bonnie was Nev Campbell.
But when she goes after the other member of the coven, who's the other swimmer, when she goes after her for her blackness, and she's so racist. I remember reading that Christine Taylor like apologized to her after every take because she just felt so yucky about everything that was going on. I mean, it's hard to watch. For some of the scenes of just how racist Christine Taylor's character is. So I think it has a lot of problems in that sense because it reinforces the stereotypes that women backstab and women go after each other. But, Sarah Bailey's, she ends that cycle by stopping what they've been doing with their, with their craft and everything. And she basically says no more. And at the end, with the other two girls now, obviously she destroys Nancy, but with the other two girls, she says like, this isn't a thing anymore. So yeah. And kind of ends that cycle. And then I also I have Dr. Ellie Sattler on my list from Jurassic Park. Because she just doesn't give any shits. Like, she does what she wants to do. And, when they see the sick Triceratops, like, she's like, you know what, I'm going to stay with him. It's full agency a lot of the time. And
She just wants Grant to give her a baby.
I don't think that that's true. I think that she wants Grant to change his mind about something that he's being very bullheaded about. And there's no sense that she necessarily wants to have kids. You didn't even know that they were together from this movie. So you can't really use that as an argument. Like, only John did he recently think that Grant and Sadler were together.
I'm 10 years deep on this knowledge. When I was a kid, I didn't think they were together.
But no, you argued with me as recently as last year about this shit.
Yeah, because it was fun.
Oh,
Because it was fun.
okay.
I didn't say that I was right. I just was giving examples of why I didn't think they
Okay.
were together.
All right. Fair enough. But I mean, I do think that, like, when things go wrong, like, she doesn't shy away from the situation. She's head first. And then one of the best lines from the movie, I think, is we can discuss sexism in survival situations when I get back. I mean, that's a good one. That's a good one. So I mean, that's
Good picks.
those are my picks. Obviously, I think for as far as Disney princesses go, I think Tiana is the most feminist, strongest of all of them.
Yeah.
Like, girlfriend just wants to start her own business. I think that's hella admirable.
So just to kind of wrap things up, Laine, what would you like to see, like, moving forward here for representations for women in film? And then we'll kind of...
I feel like we should just kind of take a look back at the 90s and look at those strong characters, because, like, 90s TV had so many good, like, really strong female characters. I think one of the most, like, honestly, we didn't talk about television at all, but I think Lisa Simpson is one of the most, like, most shining examples of a really strong female character. She always, like, sticks to her guns. Like, she always has, like, her own opinions about things. And I think she's a really good example. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Scully from the X-Files, another strong female character. I think that the 90s could really inform some of the writing moving forward. John and I've been showing him Buffy when I have time. And I think, again, Buffy's a good example of, strong female characters, especially more than one, more than just Buffy. I think we have good examples of women who are trying to do their best and are pretty well written to do so. Back before I was mad at Joss Whedon. Fuck that guy. Never meet your heroes, kids. Never meet your heroes. But I think, like, moving forward, if we kind of, keep in mind that, like, women can, like you said, John, like, the Alien script was written for a man, and then she just played, Sigourney Weaver. They didn't change the script, and she just played the character. I mean, let's just do that. Yeah. Because, like, we can be the same. Like, we have our unique strengths and weaknesses, but, like, let's just do that.
All right, now let me tell you why you're wrong.
You've got to say, well, actually, you're not a mansplayer.
Well, actually.
There you go.
Let me tell you how things really are in the
There you
world.
go. You nailed it.
Women are boobs for men to conquer.
Barf.
Oh, God. Well, this has been a hell of a discussion.
I know. This was a good episode, you guys.
Good episode. Laine, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
God, I don't know if I should say on this episode. Have everyone coming after me. No, you can find me at LA_craft on Twitter.
John?
You can find me at Make Me a Sandwich on... No, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Good story, babe. Make me a sandwich.
Good story, bud.
There were guys at the Bro Bar used to wear that t-shirt.
Oh, I know.
You can find me at the Unreal J-Bulls.
You can find me at Brian Cointoss on the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or I guess if you want to attack us for our support of feminist strong
If you
characters,
want to attack us, I'm just going to say, why don't you just take a walk around the block and just, like, walk it off?
And when
if you want to have a thoughtful discussion, let's do that.
Okay, if you want to have a thoughtful discussion, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes and catch our new episode available every other Sunday.
Guys, I can't wait for our next episode on Girls Gone Wild. It's going to be great.
Epicast.